Should sales and marketing be combined? One person may be able to handle it when you're small, but scaling requires separation. When you're thinking about marketing and sales, you can't just think about the money side of it, you have to think about the results. What are you aiming for? By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly when to combine marketing and sales and exactly when to split them up. I remember when I started Business on Purpose, it was 2015, and it was just me. And so I didn't have a department, I didn't have a marketing department or a sales department, I didn't even outsource anything. It was just me. And so I had to wake up every day and I had to strategize. I had to create a vision, I had to create a mission and a value set. I had to create a product because when we had just started, I was just kind of advising people on whatever they needed advice on. And since then, we started to build a product over time that turned into a full-scale operating system that has liberated a lot of owners from chaos. But to get to that point, and to get to the point where we are now at the state of this recording, where we've got 12 full-time people, we had to realize that there was real necessary value in marketing and sales, and I had to focus on that as a discipline and not just oh yeah, I got to do that. Think about it like this. You remember the Swiss Army knife? When you're just starting out in business and you're by yourself, or maybe there's just 2 or 3 of you, you're all really Swiss Army knives. You got to do a lot. But as you grow in a business, you've got to learn to delegate the authority of that. And one of the hardest things to delegate is marketing and sales. Now, it usually goes in this order. In every business, there's 4 core systems. We call it the 4 foundational cornerstones and then the 4 core. So the foundational cornerstones are what we call purpose, people, process, and profit. But the 4 core systems operate in that process vertical: marketing, sales, operations, and administration. And marketing always comes first. You can't account for something you've not built or delivered. You can't deliver something you've not sold, and you can't sell something that they don't know you exist. And so marketing has to come before the sales process. And so when you're by yourself, you're the Swiss Army knife of trying to do all that together, but as you grow, you can start to have people devoted to each one of those systems in your business. So a lot of people want to know, like, what's the numerical value that I've got to bring in person to be able to do this sort of thing? I'm going to tell you this, it's nearly impossible to give you a number. Why? It's because every business is so radically different in how it's structured. I'm going to give you an example. Take a $10 million home building company. Did you know that a $10 million custom home building company is actually the same size as a $2 million law firm? What do I mean by that? Well, a $10 million home building company has 80% cost of goods. Meaning if they didn't have the work, they wouldn't have to pay for the cost of goods. And if their cost of goods are 80%, that means their real revenue or their gross margin's $2 million. A law firm doesn't really have cost of goods. So when they generate $2 million, they run the business on $2 million. When the home building company generates $10 million, they run the business on $2 million because of their cost of goods. And so every business and every industry is so different. So if I were to sit here and tell you, at 250,000 of revenue, at $1 million of revenue, at 10 million of revenue is when you need to start doing this, it's going to be so short-sighted for so many different people. Instead, what I want to do is I want to give you some metrics and typically how business works. So there's an order and a flow to business that we have seen historically since we started this business and working with owners. The first thing they usually like to give away and delegate is their bookkeeping. Most owners hate dealing with the books. Now, they're a little squeamish to do it because it's the money and all of those sorts of things, but they also realize that they're not doing it themselves and they need somebody to do it, and so they usually pass that off to somebody. And when I say pass off, usually I mean abdicate, not delegate, but that's for another video at another time. The second thing that a lot of owners begin to pass off is the operational deployment of their business, meaning the production of the product, of whatever that looks like. So if you're a lawyer, they'll start to hire other people that can do some of the legal work, like a paralegal. If you're a builder, you'll start to hire a site superintendent. If you're an ice cream shop owner, you'll start to hire a cashier or somebody to actually scoop the ice cream. And so we start to pass off that, but we still hold on to maybe a little bit of the money and a lot of the marketing and the sales. Why? Is because many of us believe nobody can market like we market and nobody can sell like we sell. The third thing that people usually let go of in order, so we started with bookkeeping, then we moved to the actual production, is the marketing, and typically the social media marketing, not the in-person type. So in our business, we do a lot of speaking, and guess who still does a lot of speaking? I still do a lot of speaking because it's one of the things that I've held on to. I suffer from these diseases too. I'm not immune from this stuff. And then the final thing that most owners give up is the sales process and the actual conversion of a prospect into a client. Now in our business, I've done that a little backwards, where I've held on to a lot of the prospect generation, but our coaches are the ones that actually deploy the sales conversion. Regardless of what the order looks like, I want you to understand that that's the typical order that people let go of the disciplines of their business or the systems of their business. Administration, accounting, operations, marketing, and then last, typically, is sales. So in answering the question, should marketing and sales be combined, I would make the argument that when you start your business, they are combined at that point. But at what point do we start to see them separately? One thing we need to remember is that marketing is its own system. Sales is its own system. They are not combined, they do not go together. So even when it was just you, the Swiss Army knife, having to do everything, you still did activities and actions that were marketing and activities and actions that were sales. And your one aim for your marketing actions was qualified prospects. That was your one result. And your one result for your actions and activities for sales was closed leads. And so I want you to remember that marketing and sales have always been separate, but you, the person, have felt like they've been combined because you've not been able to segment them to other people. Here's the danger when we do combine those things. Sales is always the sexier of the two, meaning we want sales, we want closed deals, and so we're going to over-index and over-prioritize the sales activities, which are very different from the marketing actions. And so marketing actions are things like updating your website, things like going to networking associations, going to speaking engagements, doing one-pagers, print materials, social media management. Those are actions and activities for marketing. That's very different from the actions and activities for sales. Sales are things like sales scripts, radical follow-up, nurturing the people that are our qualified prospects but haven't signed up yet. That is a very different discipline than marketing. And so we need to see, even if it's just you by yourself, that marketing and sales are very different and frankly should never be combined. A lot of folks will come to us and go, hey, we have a marketing problem. We have a sales problem. We have an operations or fulfillment or a scheduling problem, whatever. And our response is usually very patient, very kind. But no, you don't have a marketing problem. You don't have a sales problem. What you have is you have a process problem. You've not identified marketing as its own system, as a collection of processes, and because of it, you've not documented those processes. So either you can work those processes with repetition, predictability, and meaning, or so you can delegate those to other people so they can begin to work those processes with repetition, predictability, and meaning. See, the investment you make in marketing, notice I said the word investment, not cost, the investment you make in marketing, the investment you make in sales is a compounding return on that investment. What is a compounding return? That means if you put $1 in today, you're not going to get $6 out tomorrow. You put $1 in today, you may not get anything out tomorrow, but in a month you'll get $1.10. In 2 months you might get $1.50. In 3 months you might get $1.90. And so over time, but in 6 months, 12 years, you will have a compounding return. That's why Albert Einstein called compounding interest the eighth wonder of the world. It's a magical thing when you allow it to happen, but too many times when we don't qualify our marketing system and our sales system as separate systems and systems in among themselves, then we don't allow for the time and consistency for our marketing and sales investments to turn and to return into compounding interest. So I've argued that marketing and sales really should be separate even if you're the only person doing them. So what should you have in each one? I'm going to give you a quick little list that I think will be helpful that every marketing system should have and every sales system should have. The good news is they should have the same things. Every marketing system should have a set of KPIs, key performance indicators. These are the actions and activities and the one result that you're shooting for. Sales system should have the same. Every marketing and sales system should have a marketing and sales meeting. That is actually a combined meeting, but you're talking about marketing separately and sales separately because they cross over in the handoff. And then every marketing system and sales system should have ongoing repetitive training. How do we train on something? We document the system when we do the system, so the next time you update the website, record it like it's the last time you'll update it. The next time you do a sales call, record it like it's the last time you'll do it. And then once you have that recording, run it through AI, and AI can give you a series of training over time that you'll begin to teach sales training every week on the different sales disciplines that you've recorded. You can train marketing training every week on the different marketing disciplines that you've recorded over time. And so when you have the KPIs, we know exactly what we're tracking. When you have the marketing and sales strategy, we know exactly where we're going. When we have the meeting, we're up to date with each other on that. And when we have the training, we're refreshed on the processes that ultimately lead to the system that are going to lead to the result. I've got a video I just thought about that would be super helpful for you. You can click on the link in the description below. It'll actually walk you through how to build a marketing and sales plan. So when you see these two things as individual systems, you want to have one plan that you're aiming towards, and that video will walk you through how to set up that plan. So click on the link below so you can walk through that video next, And what it will help you do is to be liberated from chaos to make time for the things that matter most.